Could the government soon decide how, when, and even what you're allowed to spend your money on? It sounds like something out of a dystopian movie, but it's becoming alarmingly real. Right now in the UK, over 92% of all payments are made digitally. And physical cash use is dropping faster than ever. But this shift isn't just about convenience. Behind the scenes, a wave of new financial laws is quietly being introduced. And these laws don't just affect banks or businesses. They target you, your spending, your savings, and even your privacy. What if your bank transactions could be tracked in real time? What if you were flagged for unusual behavior just for moving your own money around? And what if the government could freeze your funds without warning? All under new safety regulations. These aren't hypotheticals. From the rise of the digital pound to new bank reporting mandates and crypto crackdowns, the financial landscape in the UK is changing fast, and the consequences are massive. In this video, I'll walk you through 10 real changes that could dramatically affect how you use, store, and protect your money in 2025 and beyond. Some of them are already in place. The question is, are you safe? Number 1. Digital pound and central bank. Digital currency, CBDC. The idea of a digital pound might sound like just another tech upgrade, but it's much more than that. It's the foundation of a completely new financial system where every transaction could be tracked, analyzed, and even restricted by central authorities. The Bank of England is already working on the digital pound, a form of central bank digital currency, or CBDC. Unlike crypto like Bitcoin, which is decentralized, CBDCs are fully controlled by the government and central banks. That means if you spend, save, or send money, they can see it and potentially decide if you can. Sounds dramatic? Here's what's already being discussed. Programmable money. Imagine your paycheck coming with built-in rules. It could expire if you don't spend it in time. It could be limited to approved products or locations. And during times of crisis, access could be restricted to prevent panic spending. Governments argue this could help with fraud prevention, more efficient welfare distribution, and economic stability. But critics, including former central bankers, warn it opens the door to financial surveillance and control on an unprecedented level. And if your money can be watched, paused, or redirected at any time. Is it really your money? It's not just theory anymore. The digital pound is in the pilot phase. You may start seeing it roll out in everyday services sooner than expected. If you don't pay attention now, you might wake up in a world where your financial autonomy is optional. What can you do? For now, stay informed. Diversify your assets. Keep some savings outside of systems that could be centrally managed. The future of money is changing, and you need to stay one step ahead. Number 2. The cashless society push. Cash is disappearing fast. In just over a decade, the percentage of payments made in cash in the UK has dropped from over 50% to less than 14%. And it's not slowing down. More shops are going card-only. More banks are closing physical branches. And soon, cash might not just be inconvenient. It might be impossible to use. While many see this as a natural evolution toward convenience, there's another side to the story. In a fully cashless society, every transaction is traceable, monitored, and linked to your digital identity. There's no privacy, no anonymity, and most importantly, no backup plan. Think about it. If your card is frozen or your digital wallet goes down, how do you buy food? What if you're locked out of your account during a system outage, fraud investigation, or error? In a world without cash, you're at the mercy of the infrastructure and the institutions that control it. Even more concerning, cashless systems can be used to exclude people without access to banking or digital literacy, often the elderly, the poor, or the vulnerable, are quietly being left behind, unable to participate in the modern economy. Governments and banks argue this shift helps reduce crime and tax evasion. But critics say it opens the door to financial discrimination and control, a system where access to money could be conditional. So what can you do? Start by keeping some cash on hand. Support local businesses that still accept it, and speak up. Your right to use cash is more important than you think. What do you think about a fully cashless UK? Could it really help? Or does it pose more risks than we're being told? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more insights like this. Number 3. New bank reporting requirements. Here's something most people don't realize. Your bank is watching you a lot more closely than you think. And with new UK financial regulations tightening, that monitoring is only getting more intense. Under recent rules, banks are now expected to flag unusual customer activity more aggressively. And they're given a surprising amount of freedom to define what counts as unusual. It's no longer just massive transfers or offshore accounts. Now, moving large amounts between your own accounts, withdrawing cash more than once a week, or sending a few transfers to friends could raise red flags. These flags can trigger automated systems that freeze transactions, block payments, or lock accounts, all before you even get an explanation. This isn't theoretical. It's already happening, quietly, without most people noticing. And here's the problem. There's no universal standard. One bank might let something slide that another flags as suspicious. It's inconsistent, it's vague, and it puts regular people under a microscope they never asked for. You might think, well, I've got nothing to hide. But the system doesn't care about context, it cares about patterns. And if your spending pattern strays outside the norm, you're in the danger zone. No warning, no appeal process, just a blocked account and a customer support maze. Anti-money laundering matters, but so does transparency. The balance is shifting, and not in your favor. Understanding these reporting requirements isn't about paranoia, it's about preparation. Because in this new financial landscape, innocence doesn't always protect you from being treated like a suspect. Number 4. Social credit system warnings. It might sound like a far-fetched conspiracy theory, but the idea of a social credit system creeping into Western democracies isn't as far off as you might think. In China, the government uses a formal system to rate citizens based on their behavior, purchases, online activity, and even who they associate with. A low score can block you from traveling, taking out loans, or even booking hotels. That's extreme. But here's the thing. The building blocks of a similar system are starting to form in the UK, just under a different name. No, there isn't a national score, not yet, but financial institutions, social platforms, and even public services are gathering more data than ever. And when your financial behavior is tied to your social or political activity, the lines start to blur. Take, for example, recent instances of people having their bank accounts frozen or closed for reputational risk. That's a broad term. Too broad. It means someone, somewhere, decided you were controversial. And that was enough to cut you off from your own money. Combine this with the digital pound, AI-driven risk profiling, and corporate cooperation with government watchdogs. And suddenly, the infrastructure for a softer, subtler form of social credit starts to emerge. Critics warn this could lead to a culture of quiet compliance, where people censor themselves not out of belief, but out of fear of financial penalties. This isn't about left or right politics. It's about freedom of choice, freedom of thought, and yes, freedom of access to your own resources. When money becomes conditional, behavior follows. And when that behavior is enforced without law, just by silent corporate policy, we've stepped into dangerous territory. Number 5. Tax enforcement enhancements. It used to be that a tax audit came with a knock on the door, a letter in the mail, or at the very least, a heads up. But new regulations in the UK are shifting the entire approach to tax enforcement. And not in a way most people are prepared for. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs has been granted expanded powers to access personal bank data more efficiently, with less friction and fewer legal hurdles than ever before. What does that mean? In simple terms, they can now look directly into your bank activity, including personal accounts, without needing to notify you first. This isn't just about catching offshore tax cheats. It's about monitoring domestic transactions, too. That side hustle you started during lockdown? The PayPal income from selling on eBay? A few deposits from freelance gigs? It's all fair game now, and it can be scrutinized without context. The issue isn't whether taxes should be paid, it's whether your privacy should be quietly bypassed in the name of compliance. Because once this level of access becomes normalized, it's very hard to roll back. And let's be honest, tax law isn't simple. It's full of gray areas, ambiguous deductions, and evolving rules. Even well-intentioned citizens can make mistakes. But with AI now involved in financial pattern recognition, those mistakes could be flagged as suspicious, or worse, deliberate. The reality is that HMRC doesn't need to prove wrongdoing to start investigating. The burden shifts to you to explain, document, and defend even the most routine financial activity. So if you're earning in non-traditional ways, keeping detailed records is no longer optional. It's essential. In this new era of surveillance-driven enforcement, staying transparent isn't just smart, it's survival. Number 6. Universal Basic Income Trials. The idea of Universal Basic Income, or UBI, has been gaining traction in the UK with small-scale pilot programs already underway. On the surface, it sounds like a progressive, supportive move. Guaranteed money for everyone, no strings attached. But here's where things get complicated. UBI is being explored as a response to job automation, economic inequality, and the rising cost of living. The concept is simple. Provide a regular payment to every citizen to cover basic needs. But in practice, many of these pilot programs are being tied to digital infrastructure, meaning the money is issued and controlled electronically. Now imagine this. Your monthly UBI arrives through a central platform. It's trackable. It can be limited to certain categories of spending. It can even expire if unused after a certain period. And if you violate terms, whatever those might be, access to those funds could be paused or revoked. That's not just income. That's conditional income. And it changes the entire relationship between citizen and state. Critics warn that while UBI sounds empowering, in digital form it can become a tool for soft control. A safety net, yes, but one that might come with invisible strings. There's also the question of dependency. If a significant portion of the population relies on UBI for survival, what happens when the terms change? Or when that funding is used as leverage during times of political pressure? It's not that UBI is inherently bad, far from it, but the way it's deployed matters. Freedom, after all, is not just about receiving, it's about choosing, without fear of what might be taken away. Number 7. New crypto regulations. Crypto was supposed to be the Wild West, decentralized, anonymous, and free from traditional financial control. But those days are fading fast. In 2024, the UK government introduced a sweeping set of crypto regulations, and now in 2025, the grip is tightening even more. The new rules require most exchanges and wallet providers to register with the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA. This means KYC, Know Your Customer, is now mandatory for nearly all crypto users in the UK. If you want to buy, sell, or even transfer crypto, you'll need to verify your identity and disclose your personal details. On top of that, anonymous transactions are being heavily discouraged. The Treasury has proposed rules that could make peer-to-peer transactions, the kind that don't go through a central platform, practically impossible without legal risk. And all this is being justified under the banner of anti-money laundering. But critics argue this strips crypto of the very qualities that made it revolutionary. Privacy? Gone. Autonomy? Compromised. And the worst part, this level of oversight may only be the beginning. If central banks roll out their own digital currencies, as we've seen with the digital pound discussions, crypto could be regulated right into irrelevance. Not banned, just so restricted and monitored that it loses its edge. So what can you do? First, get smart about where you store your crypto. Cold wallets, offline and secure, offer more privacy than centralized exchanges. Understand which platforms are fully KYC compliant and which still offer some flexibility. And most importantly, stay updated. Crypto is changing faster than any other financial space, and what's legal today could be illegal tomorrow. This isn't just about investment anymore, it's about digital independence. Number 8. Financial censorship possibilities. Money has always been a tool of power, but now it's becoming a tool of control. In recent years, we've seen multiple high-profile cases where individuals and organizations were financially deplatformed, not because of criminal activity, but because of their views, associations, or public positions. Banks, payment processors, and crowdfunding platforms have quietly frozen or shut down accounts over what they call reputational risk. That's a vague term, and it's often applied behind closed doors, with no transparency or real appeals process. You don't have to break the law, you just have to make someone uncomfortable. This isn't limited to fringe activists or political extremes. Journalists, whistleblowers, and even charities have been affected. And when access to your money is blocked, so is your ability to live, speak, and operate freely. In the UK, there's growing concern that financial institutions are being used as an enforcement arm, not of the law, but of shifting social norms. When banks act as moral gatekeepers, the line between financial regulation and censorship gets dangerously thin. The scariest part? There's very little oversight. No elected body decides who gets frozen. Often, it's just a risk department following a vague policy document that no one outside the company ever sees. The decisions are swift, silent, and nearly impossible to challenge. This sets a dangerous precedent, one where your access to money, to live, to speak, to dissent can be revoked with a single email. No trial, no warning, just silence. Financial censorship doesn't have to be loud. In fact, it works best when it's quiet, when people self-censor out of fear. That's not how a free society works. And if this trend continues unchecked, it's not just activists who should be worried, it's everyone. Number 9. Biometric ID and spending access. Unlocking your phone with your face or fingerprint may feel like convenience, but what happens when the same tech decides whether you can access your money? Biometric identification is on the rise in the UK's financial sector. Banks and fintech platforms are now testing systems that tie account access directly to biometric data. Face scans, voice patterns, iris recognition. It's sold as security, and yes, it reduces fraud. But it also raises a serious question. What if your identity is misread, mismatched, or rejected? Unlike a password, you can't reset your face. And as biometric authentication becomes the default, you may find yourself locked out not just from apps, but from your finances. There are deeper concerns too. Biometric systems require storage of sensitive biological data. And once collected, who controls it? Can it be shared with other institutions? With the government? Under what conditions? There's already talk of using biometric verification for welfare access, tax services, and even healthcare. If this expands, biometric ID could become a mandatory gateway, not just for online banking, but for full participation in society. Now imagine that access being revoked, not due to wrongdoing, but a system error, or a policy shift, or a false flag triggered by faulty facial recognition. Biometric technology isn't inherently bad, but tying it to spending and identity without robust legal protections could turn a high-tech convenience into a powerful gatekeeper. Right now, the systems are being sold as optional. But how long before optional becomes required? The more your body becomes your password, the more vulnerable you are to a system that controls the locks and decides when they stay closed. Number 10. Conclusion and action steps. We've just walked through 9 powerful and unsettling ways new UK laws are reshaping the way you access, store, and use your money. These aren't future hypotheticals. Many of these shifts are already happening, quietly slipping into daily life while most people remain unaware. From the rise of the digital pound to biometric ID systems and aggressive bank monitoring, the pattern is clear. Increased control, less privacy, and more conditions tied to your financial freedom. The goal of this video isn't to spread panic, it's to spark awareness. Because awareness leads to action, and action is how we protect freedom before it's quietly taken away. So what can you actually do? Start by staying informed. Read beyond the headlines. Pay attention to policy proposals, not just flashy press releases. Knowledge is your first layer of defense, and arguably the most important one. Next, diversify. Don't keep all your money in one account or under one system. Consider cash savings, secure cold wallets for crypto, and even alternative stores of value like precious metals. Flexibility is key in a tightening system. Speak up. Push for transparency and safeguards in financial law. Support organizations that fight for digital rights and individual liberty. It may feel small, but collective pressure still influences outcomes. And finally, don't tune out. The more complex the system becomes, the easier it is for people to give up and accept whatever they're handed. Don't let that happen. Your financial autonomy is worth defending, now more than ever. Before you go, we'd love to hear your take. Which of these new laws worries you the most, and why? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We actually read them. If you found this eye-opening, check out our previous video. It connects the dots even deeper. And hey, we put real time, research, and heart into every upload. So if you value content like this, please support us. Just hit that subscribe button. It's one click, but it means everything to us.